Hi, I'm Craig McIndoe from Darling Crackles. Welcome to After Service, an interview series with some of hospitality's real characters. We delve into what makes them tick, what makes a venue successful, and what they think the future holds for our industry. Today, I'm chatting with a man you should all know, Justin North. Justin described himself as a chef, hospitality consultant, and author with over 25 years' experience, Bécasse. His restaurant had two chef's hats from 2003 to 2011. Bécasse was also named Best European Restaurant in Australia in 2009. Sydney Morning Herald in 2009 named him Chef of the Year, and he was GQ Man of the Year in 2010. He has recently opened his consulting business called Concept Hospitality, in which he offers his experience on everything from kitchen design, menus, interiors, branding, and that X factor. So,
Good, mate.
This is Craig McIndoe having a interview with Justin North. So Justin, just give people some history, a little bit of a history about what you've done in the past and where you work now.
Yeah, for sure. So at the moment, I've got Concept Hospitality, which is a consultancy group to hospitality. So I guess the long road is when I was about 15, I started cooking. So I've had about 30 years experience, and so I'm a chef by trade, and from New Zealand. Did my apprenticeship in New Zealand, came to Sydney for a few years, trained in the UK and Europe, came back to Sydney, opened Bécasse in around 2001, and then the last probably since Centennial days, which would have been about 2017, have sort of pretty much been full-time consulting with Concept Hospitality. So I guess just been enjoying the ride of the last few months of COVID and the excitement.
Just give people a little bit of a context. So you said you started when you were 15. Does that mean, like, did you start as a kitchen hand or did you start in school?
So I guess I guess the reason why I got started, so in New Zealand, I did school certificate and then went back for, they call it Form 6, I think, which was for university entry, which I didn't want to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I loved art and used to do a lot of art at school. And then I'd sort of felt I'd taken as much as I could from school at that point, and wanted to do something else. So mum and dad were very supportive, and they said, you know, as long as you've got some form of tertiary education or a job to go to. So me and my mate went to a careers advisor at school and saw a hospitality management course and thought, great, you know, there'd be lots of girls there. So we thought we'd go to the local Polytech or TAFE, and it was like 6 months, I guess, of a month learning how to be a waiter, making drinks, basic bar work, hotel management type sort of stuff. When we did the month in the kitchen, I was like, wow, this is awesome. You know, it was I could really see the corresponding links between the art that I loved as a kid and, you know, being able to take that into some sort of paid employment in the future. So initially it was just a so I did, I was in Blenheim in New Zealand at that point, and then moved to Wellington, I think when I was about 16, 17, and was part of the Park Royal Hotel group and did my apprenticeship in New Zealand, in Wellington, until I was like 19 and then first came to Sydney. But it wasn't until, I reckon between 15 to 18, it was just a job. And kitchen hand and washing dishes, sort of trying to learn, getting a bit more into cooking. I did a few competitions, you know, like cookery competitions were quite sort of in vogue back in those days. So I'd sort of done a few competitions and did really well. And then I sort of started to think, well, I could actually, you know, make a bit more of a career of this. But it probably wasn't really until I came to Sydney and met Liam Tomlin at Brasserie Cassis, which would have been, it would have been 96, I think. No, 1994, I'm pretty sure it was. But just, it was almost, you know, his obsessive, incredible character. Just, it was like a drug to me. I just saw how amazing that man was and how incredible cook he was. And I just sort of wanted to join the ride. And it was like, at that stage, I'd probably been cooking for like 4 or 5 years, but it was like starting all over again in a restaurant opposed to being in a hotel. It was just phenomenal, like the intensity, the pressure. You know, Liam is probably one of the greatest mentors, greatest chefs I think I've ever worked with, him and Raymond Blanc, and sort of working alongside Liam as a young man at 19, 20. It was a major sort of influence on my life as a chef. And,
I mean, he's been a major influence for a lot of people, hasn't he? I mean, he's really
he has.
He was really the core of the bank and all those real stalwarts of the 80s. Like he was really. Have you been to his place in Africa?
I haven't. We keep in touch, but I haven't actually been over, which I want to. And I'm pleased I've kept in touch with him because he is he's played a huge part in my life, I think, to this point.
Give us a snapshot of the current business concept, hospitality, its philosophy, the business and its philosophy.
To be honest, it's sort of difficult to do that at the moment because it's sort of evolving so much in the current times. But I guess it was formed after I left Hotel Centennial, because I guess throughout my career, I've been consulting as a side project pretty much the whole time, just as different things come up. And then I guess it sort of it became more and more increasingly difficult to own and operate a business. And I'd learned a lot of positives and negatives from running your own business. And I guess I developed a genuine fascination, I guess, in terms of what makes businesses work. So I guess all those things I learned, I wanted to pass on to other people. And, I love being a part of it. And it also grew like a really interesting, quite eclectic group, and contact list of people, from architects, designers, music lovers, artists, all the different components that make a venue, and it was to make a venue successful. And I guess Concept Hospitality was born, the gap in the market for us was the hotel market, pubs and clubs, and 4 or 5 star hotels, where there was a big need to improve the quality of the food and beverage operations. So I guess where Concept Hospitality sits is that I can go in there and do, menu development, training of staff, that sort of thing. And then if there's a need to create a bigger concept around that, then I can introduce to, designers, architects that sort of suit that project. So I guess the biggest gap that I've seen is the disconnection with all of those sort of trades coming together. And from my own experience, when you put like-minded people together, whether it's PR, marketing, designers, accountants, a whole group of people together who are going to be responsible for running the venue. When you get those dynamics right, what can be achieved is pretty remarkable. But however, when that connection of people is not quite right, it can also lead to disaster for a venue as well. So I guess being able to oversee those dynamics is really, really important. And I guess all the different touch points in the venue are just so critical these days. Like I remember back in sort of 2000 and whatnot, in the earlier sort of days of my career, if you were a good chef, you could pretty much open up a business and just sort of trade off that, It didn't really matter too much about the ambience, the lighting, the music, the decor, but nowadays, like every single thing, you've just got to get 100% right, in your business. So I guess that's what Concept does is help develop all those different things.
You ever have moments, like you seem to me very calm, and I mean, I'm an ex-chef as well, but do you ever Ramsey up? Have you ever had that moment where you just have you ever walked out of your own venue, or ever walked out of a venue, or have you ever just really absolutely just exploded?
Yeah, no, definitely. Less so nowadays. Like things have changed a lot, I guess when I sort of did my head, I was very much grew up in that sort of Marco Ramsey sort of environment, and the way you motivated people was pretty much through fear, through discipline, through intensity, through yelling, through shouting, and you did that because you didn't really know any other way, and that was a very different time to what it is today. So I guess one of the biggest involvements I've had as a human is trying to let go of that aggressive nature and be a lot more nurturing, a lot more calming, and trying to find different ways of motivating people. You
I
know,
mean,
which has been,
it was a trial by fire, wasn't it? It was kind of like this,
yeah,
like it was the toughest. People were tough, and they decided they really, were thriving off. I mean, I know so many of my chef mates are like, oh yeah, 14-hour day, it's nothing. And now you really have to take care of your staff rather than just push them and so that, like it's a totally different environment now, isn't it?
yeah, no, you do, and I love that part of the job, you know, and I love the way the industry's changed. You know, it's just so unsustainable when you're working 18 hours a day in such an aggressive, macho, horrible environment. Like it's just, it wasn't enjoyable then, and it's not as enjoyable now. And unfortunately, back then, that was the accepted way, and I'm so thankful that now it's just not the accepted way, and it shouldn't be tolerated. And like people should, to have a career where you can come to work and you can work 8 hours or 10 hours or maybe 12 hours, but, around 8 hours a day and give it everything you've got and be working in a happy environment where you are learning a lot and feeling good about yourself and, being able to maintain mental health and physical fitness. And, like everyone's entitled to that. And the biggest downside of our industry, for a long, long time is that it just has not been sustainable to work in, for chefs in front of house. And, I think it attracts people that are naturally, have addictive or possessive or obsessive attributes. And, when you expose them to mental abuse as well and long hours, the amount of mental issues, addiction issues, suicide in our industry is it's frightfully disgusting, and it's nice to see that there is some sort of change. I think we've still got a long way to go, but going back to your original part of the question, we didn't have, you didn't know any other way earlier on. The only way you knew how to motivate people or act in a kitchen was through fear and aggression, and thankfully still got a long way to go, but thankfully that's, it's one of the most pleasurable things as well that I find these days is building a team and being able to motivate them and, knowing about their families and taking a genuine interest in who they are. And, I've been really fortunate, I guess, in my life and career to learn so much from, like I had some amazing mentors, Raymond Blanc and Liam and many others who were so generous with their knowledge, just to pass it on. And I sort of feel that there's an obligation there to be able to, to continue to pass it on to other people. And, I feel an amazing privilege when I'm in a kitchen or in a business to be able to help build a team and share some of that knowledge that, I've been given. I love that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Starting off, what do you think you'd tell a 20-year-old you? Not that the 20-year-old you would listen, but what do you think you would say?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think I'd probably listen. You know what, though? It's funny because I don't think I would really change anything in my early 20s, because I think that was probably a period of my life where I really burnt a candle at both ends and really lived life to the absolute fullest. Like I was like a sponge. I just wanted to learn as much as I possibly could, as quickly as I could. I was on a mission, and I was young and full of energy. And, we would party all night and we would work our ass off all day long and just learn as much. And it was hard and it was tiring, but it was fun. And, I packed as much as I could into those years. But I reckon in my life where I probably needed better advice, or what I'd tell myself, say, was probably around late 20s and early 30s. I think when you've been working for so many people, so many amazing people for so long, I think you sort of feel like you know it all and you're in a bit of a rush to get somewhere. So I think the biggest advice that I would give myself as a late 20-year-old or early 30-year-old would be to be patient, a lot more patient. It's probably the key advice. I'd probably give that advice to most people, to be honest.
And would you give that advice to most of your clients?
Yes, patience is a good one, but I think probably the advice to clients would more be understand the strengths and the weaknesses of your team and letting the experts do what they're good in. And if there's gaps within your business, then you must get the right people in to fill those gaps and to train others. It's all very well and good to want to try and do the right thing by putting someone in a position perhaps to try and fulfill a gap where there's not expertise. But I think to be successful, you must have expertise in all areas and let them do what they're good at and motivate them and build a really good, solid team.
I think there's a piece there around in the industry in the past has not really been good at asking questions of experts, has it?
No, 100%. And I think there's a lot of pride at stake there. And I also think, the wrong people being tasked with different jobs. And I think, it's a hugely challenging environment we're in at the moment, but looking more longer term, I think the hotel, in terms of the accommodation and F&B has huge potential, in Australia, to be able to unlock some great food and beverage potential there. I don't necessarily think that they have that expertise in-house, but they certainly are. A lot of the good operators now are looking externally to bring in that expertise to help them, whether it's on a consultancy basis or employ them full-time or whatever. But there's great opportunity for them longer term to unlock some really good F&B revenue and also be taken seriously as a good F&B outlet.
Yeah.
Which at the moment, majority of them are not.
Yeah, for sure. Tell us a couple of places you really admire for their business success, and what do you think their secret is?
I think at the moment, I applaud anyone who owns it and operates their own hospitality business at the moment. It's been hard and challenging for a long, long time. There's no question about that. The way things have evolved over the last decade, it makes it incredibly challenging, and particularly in this COVID sort of time that we're in now. So, I admire anyone who has the passion, the balls to go out there and open their own business. I think I have massive admiration for them because it's a huge step. It's one thing to want to do something and have a dream of doing something, but to actually take that step and do it is fucking huge. You put everything on the line these days for huge risk. So I love that. But I guess that's speaking more broadly to hone it down. For me, the best experience is one of the things that I've done over the last, 10 years or so was really focus on my family and really have that close connection. I sacrificed a lot of that, in my 20s and 30s but now I guess being a little bit older and wiser to really take the time and spend with my family. And one of the greatest things that I have is going out with my partner or, my daughter or my son. And, one of the things I did recently was go to Bécasse in Sydney with my daughter and just sort of sit there for a couple of hours at lunchtime and just relax and take it all in. And, she's at an age now where, she's a little adult. She's 13 going on 25 sort of thing, challenging. But to be able to have a beautiful relationship like that and sit with her in such a beautiful restaurant, I love that. And massive credit to people like the guys behind Bécasse and that who and I think that's certainly the way things are going, where you can hone in on a really good, clever concept and just fucking back it to the hilt and do something that's really good, really unique, and basically put your whole business model around doing one thing really, really well. I love that.
Tell me, what is your biggest blunder in business and what do you think you learnt from it?
Yeah, look, there's many. I think probably the biggest thing is being able to analyze your own performance and putting ego aside and asking yourself really honest questions so you can actually learn from it. I think we're all guilty of, when we make mistakes, is sort of blaming everybody else. But it's interesting how quickly those dynamics change and how much you learn when you start saying, well, I'm responsible for that. If you start using that language and start going, you know, I'm a director, or I'm responsible, or it's my business, or it's, you know, as soon as you start turning it around to you rather than pointing at everybody else, you know, whether it's COVID, whether it's GFC, whether it's I've employed the wrong person, or, you know, we can all make a million different excuses. But as soon as you start asking yourself, what could have I done to impact or change that? Then I think you learn so much from doing it. I guess that's one thing. The patience we mentioned before, I think to be patient in business, and you know, you have to analyze everything now, and have one of the biggest mistakes I made in business is not having the right people in the right positions and not having the right structure. You know, we grew a company from 6 employees, you know, a partnership of, you know, a husband and wife type team, into 6 or 8 different venues and loads of, you know, hundreds of staff, and we just did not have the right structure in place to do it. And again, that comes down to patience, and, you know, what I learned from that was incredible, you know, and I learned a huge amount. So to be able to, you know, again, you know, it's like the whole cooking thing. I want to pass on as many things that I've learned from my failures just as much as their successes to different people, you know.
So on the flip side of that, what is the business moment that you're most proud of?
I would say building a team, and building a really good team. I think, you know, like hospitality is all about the people. If you have the wrong people, and by that sort of comes down to the leadership, because, you know, hospitality is like an open door, right? Anyone can sort of come in and start operating. So you get so many different ethnic backgrounds, you get so many different personalities, you know, you get all walks of life. If you look at a kitchen or a front of house or the back office, you know, you put all that together in a melting pot, you've got so much going on there. So to be able to get all of those people happy, working together in a great environment to achieve so much, I think is, you know, is an amazing achievement. And, you know, I love that process. So I guess when one of the probably, I think when in the early days of Bécasse, I think when we, you know, had an amazing team there, and, you know, we achieved, you know, to be able to walk into a really busy, beautiful venue, you know, that achieved so much, I think is a massive highlight, you know, and I really miss having that and those incredible people there. I think they'll certainly
it's kind of in some ways like a family of a different sort, and I don't think there's anything more fulfilling than, you know, as the head chef walking around a dining room at the end of a really busy service and having people wanting to chat to you, and you feel like, I mean, it's a big ego thing, of course, and it plays to that sort of addictive personality, but I don't think there's anything greater than finishing a really busy service where you've got through it really well, and then you walk out of the dining room and everybody's happy, and you just feel like, oh my God, this is just like, it's just the pinnacle.
Yeah, like there's a real special buzz in the room, you know, when people are sort of bouncing off their energy that's in there. It's something it's really difficult to create, you know. It's absolutely magical. And the other thing I think, which I love to see and I get a massive buzz from, is the career progression of people, you know, like watching them as a young kid, you know, as an apprentice or a chef de partie, and going on to be a sous chef and a chef, and, you know, whether they go on to run their own successful business or run businesses for other people, whatever the scenario is. But to be able to see that progression, you know, like I love that. I just love watching people grow and watching their career path. And, you know, it's so exciting. It's, you know, it probably is one of the best things, I think, to be able to see as an older person in hospitality, watching the young guys sort of grow, you know, into their own is really special.
Yeah, very much like that. It's still very much like that family, isn't it? It's like your children, because you've sort of coached them come up, and I mean, you must have seen there's plenty of guys that have been in your kitchen that are now out there sort of leading the whole hospitality industry, aren't they?
Yeah, no, 100%. You know, like I was lucky to have some incredible people work for us, and, you know, who started young and went on to be, you know, sous chefs, head chefs, and business owners. Like there's some, you know, amazing people out there, and you know, I think you can't really take any credit for that, because at the end of the day, they're their own people, and they're the ones who do the hours and work hard and choose their pathway, and you know, so but it's nice to be able to observe those ones that, you know, stick to it and go and do it. There's nothing more frustrating, you know, when you see young guys with huge amount of talent and then don't stick to it. You know, like obviously their happiness is the priority, but to be able to see people flourish, you know, is pretty good thing to see.
Yeah. Listen, we could go on for ages, but we have sort of hit the half-hour mark, and I think that's probably all that people will watch of us two ugly people. So
Yeah.
let's just finish off with how can people get in contact with Concept Hospitality? Is it concepthospitality.com.au, or what's the...
Yes, that's probably the best one, or just email justin@justinnorth.com.au, or justin@concepthospitality.com. Go to the website. My phone number's there. So,
All right, well, thanks very much.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. It's an exciting time. And thanks for having us on, mate. Appreciate it.
I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Cheers.